A group of Russian anarchist feminists saved me, and they transformed me into a cyborg with superhuman power.
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week, Leo sent me a screener for MAR.IA, and this 2023 film was directed by Gabriel, Grieco, and stars Daria Panchenko, Malena, Sánchez, and Sofía, Gala, Castiglione, among others, of course. And so what is the story of MAR.IA? Well, it follows this adult film actress, and she gets into this car accident and, goes to the hospital in a coma. But then someone takes her body out of the hospital and now it's missing. And it's kind of implied that she may have, died. But she winds up back alive a few years later, assumingly kind of, having some replacement parts and whatnot. And so she is back into the film industry, and she's doing this one in like an underground Argentina, film set. And so she is there, and the film kind of goes wrong and something happens. And it turns out, she starts going crazy and goes after the crew. What will happen though? Well, for that, you gotta watch the movie and find out. All right, so let's discuss this movie. Well, with this one, first of all, I think it's not supposed to be pronounced Maria. I think it's supposed to be like MAR.IA, which is artificial intelligence, but it's said in the Spanish way. So it's IA instead of AI. And I think that's what they're going for, certainly, with the cyborg running around, killing people and whatnot. It certainly is artificial intelligence. And they even have like this thing right at the beginning. It's like artificial intelligence changed the world in 2024, and now it's going to change the porn industry as well. And so that's kind of like the setup to the whole thing. So having this android certainly going crazy on a porn set is an interesting idea. I kind of pressed play not knowing anything about this. I did watch the trailer, and the trailer tells you nothing. So once you kind of figure out what's going on, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the movie I'm watching. But it's fine. Sometimes Leo sends me some strange stuff, and this is certainly a strange film that way. I would say the idea itself is a fun idea, like a robot going crazy on this adult film set. I mean, what can you imagine happening, right? It sounds like such a fun idea, and certainly to an extent it is. And with the android, she has some inventive kills as well. There's one guy where she like rips his dick off, but not, with her hands. And so, that was a fun kill. So it does kind of go for like a shock value to it as well. And that certainly, can make it for an interesting film. Other than that, I did enjoy the look of the android. Eventually, she kind of gets that Terminator, one eye kind of thing going on. And that certainly, helped, I would say, the whole movie overall, because, you want your android to look like an android. If it's just a human woman walking around, it kind of seems cheap. And so this one actually having the makeup of this, robotic eye, I think works. And so the robot, I would say, works, and her outfit too. It's kind of like this S&M thing going on. So it's an interesting kind of visual appearance. What else? I think it is a shorter movie. It's only like an hour and 9 minutes or hour and 10 minutes or something. And so it is fairly well paced as well. Like something's always going on. And that also, helps you get into it, because it's not going to stay, too long. They get right into it. And that certainly is at least a good start. And I think that brings me to what doesn't work with this one. And the biggest problem I had with it was the ADR. And that is where they, record the film and then they record the speaking separately and just, overdub it. And with this one, it's clearly everyone's, a Spanish speaker. So they probably are speaking with, accents while they're filming. But because of that, their lips don't necessarily match up with the words that they're sounding out. And so that just kind of threw me off. And then there's even things where like it's clear that they're saying something different as well, or at least, clear to me, like I can kind of read lips. And so they had this one scene where they're like yelling at this guy, and he's like, they're making a threat or something. And so they're yelling like, you got it, you got it. But their lips are saying, you get it, you get it. And so I know they're pretty similar, but at the same time, their lip movements are slightly different. So there's kind of a lot of like things like that with the ADR that just don't quite match up. But there's Spanish speakers speaking in English and then being dubbed in perfect English. And so it really is an odd kind of ADR kind of set up there and just kind of, I don't know, took away from the movie. Other than that, I would say with the lighting, it tries to be very cyberpunk. So everything is washed in pink and purple. And a lot of the scenes are in this pink and purple room. And so the shadows are kind of overextended and it's kind of, I don't know, texture is kind of hard to see in this lighting. I think it would have probably benefited from kind of, you know, some modern day, you know, standard horror lighting, and that would have made it at least easier to see sometimes and at least scarier as well. With this one just everything being pink and purple, it just, I don't know, takes away from the horror element. I sure it adds to the sci-fi element, but at the same time you want to have a balance, not just, you know, heavy hand on one or the other. So that certainly goes into it as well. Also, I thought the acting was just okay from people. I know they're, you know, Spanish actors speaking in English, then dubbed in English, right? So it does kind of have this, you know, 2 degrees of separation kind of feel to it. But, you know, they're doing an okay job, just, you know, nothing spectacular. And lastly, there is this like necrophilia element to it. Like it's just this one kind of story element that just, I don't know, doesn't sit right with me. Anytime there's necrophilia, I always try to, you know, fast forward through it. And so this one, you know, she's not really dead. She wakes up because she's a robot, but at the same time, they lead you to try to believe that's what they're doing. And that's just gross. Like, that's just not something I wanted to see. So that is also, you know, something that took away from just the viewing experience for me. So would I recommend this movie? Well, I would say it certainly has like a shock value to it with the Neko stuff and, you know, other kills and whatnot. So you certainly could press play on it if you want that type of stuff. And I know that's, you know, a whole genre out there, just, you know, how extreme can you be? But for like a normal audience, I would say maybe no with this one. And as for rating, well, I'm going to give it the okay score of 4, which is below average. I think with the Neko stuff, that just kind of, you know, brings it down a little bit, and then, you know, the rest of it as well. So that is certainly what I'm going to give it. But, you know, tell us what you think if you've seen it. So with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.